Call them a terror group.
Is it possible to have a rational discussion?
Are you
with
prepared to call Hamas a terror group?
Is it possible to have a rational discussion with you? Is it possible? Come on, answer that question.
You can't, can you?
You answer it.
No,
You are obsessed with tittle-tattle of politics. Of something that happens 10 years ago. Why don't you instead concentrate on this?
You think people supporting Hamas is tittle-tattle?
Let me finish. Give me a chance.
Really? It's not that difficult to say Hamas should go and they're a terror group. Why can't you, Jeremy Corbyn, answer the questions?
Ask something about the behaviour of the Israeli army and the Israeli government. Why can't you say that? Why can't you have a discussion about how a ceasefire would come about? Why can't you have a discussion about a process for the future?
Because you know why, Jeremy?
About a peace for everybody in the region. And it does not mean that the people of Gaza all support Hamas.
When I repeatedly ask you,
people in Palestine feel under occupation. How do you think it's like, what it's like growing up with a soldier outside your house? How do you feel? How would you feel?
Well, can I answer?
If your land was being taken and settlement put in, how would you feel if your children were being bombed in a hospital?
Can I answer?
Is dead already.
I know.
How many more are there going to be before this is over? How many more wholly innocent Palestinian children are going to be killed because of Israeli military policy?
Answer my question.
A ceasefire means a ceasefire.
They are not
on both sides.
Are
you done yet?
It's actually a critical question.
Are you done yet?
It's a critical question.
Are you done yet?
No, it's the question.
Are you done yet?
Should they stay in power?
Are you done yet?
This country says they're a terror group.
If we all believe in a two-state solution, why doesn't our government recognise the state of Palestine? Why did they only recognise the state of Israel?
I think you can only have a two-state.
Hypocrisy at its highest level.
Only have a terror group.
Well, today we have a very, very viral interview with Jeremy Corbyn and Piers Morgan. This is one of the original ones that started making Piers Morgan more viral. Now, I personally have never watched this interview, even though I've seen it on my feed dozens of times. And I'm very excited to watch the highlights with you today. And if you really enjoy watching these condensed versions of the video where you don't have to go watch the whole entire podcast, you can just watch a quick 15-20-minute clip. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel. It will mean a lot to me because when you do that, the video goes to a larger audience. We can go change more minds. And if you do that, I will try my best to reply to all of the comments below. Now let's continue.
Yes or no?
You won't like it when somebody pushes back on you. What I've said is...
I've asked you two questions. Should Hamas stay in power and are they a terror group? You're refusing to answer either of them. That is very telling. And you wonder,
it's not very telling
why people think you had a problem with Jewish people.
At all.
Right?
What is very telling is your inability to keep quiet for 30 seconds to allow anybody to answer a question.
On my show, I ask people questions.
You shout at people.
Normally, they answer them.
You know, this is actually a little wild for me. Just like the yelling, the shouting, and then just the hand gestures. Isn't Jeremy Corbyn like a leader of a party? Like, bro, that's a little bit disrespectful. Or he used to be, I think, right?
Shout at people.
No, only when they won't answer the question.
No, you shout at people all the time.
You've deliberately not answered my question.
Piers, I've explained to you how to get rid of Hamas.
Are they a terror group, Len?
Of course.
Thank you. Why can't you say that?
Hang on.
You've answered it. Should they stay in power, Len?
But do you...
Should they stay in power?
No, they won't be in power.
No, do you believe they should?
They won't be in...
Do you believe they...
I feel like the reason a lot of people hesitate to answer that easy question, I mean, obviously Hamas is a terrorist group or resistance group, sure. The reason why a lot of people hesitate to answer that is because when you do that, you kind of put the onus on the Palestinians, like, oh, they're the ones causing this, when the Israeli IDF is just as bad, if not worse. It's worse. It's killed way more people, way more innocent lives. Like, come on. Why are you not mentioning the IDF?
Should.
They won't be in power.
Do you believe they should?
They won't. I don't believe.
Okay, so you've answered my questions.
I believe.
It's not that difficult to say Hamas should go and they're a terror group. Why can't you, Jeremy Corbyn, answer the questions?
Ask something about the behaviour of the Israeli army and the Israeli government. Why can't you say that? Why can't you have a discussion about how a ceasefire would come about? Why can't you have a discussion about a process for the future?
Because you know why, Jeremy?
Which brings about a peace for everybody in the region. And it does not mean that the people of Gaza support Hamas.
When I repeatedly ask you,
well, they weren't taking part in the march that was organised by PSC and Stop the War.
Well, they were there.
They've
been. I've seen the images.
The equivalent of the crowd of 10 Cup finals came to London on Saturday to march for peace in Gaza because they're appalled at what's happening there. And there were people there who wanted a ceasefire. There was
placards. Yeah, but what about the ones...
placards there calling for the release of...
I've already said that.
Calling for the release of
I've acknowledged
hostages.
that. I'm concerned about the ones who were chanting death to the Jews, the ones who were wearing Hamas regalia, the ones who were chanting...
They should have been arrested by the police. Every protest that's ever taken place in London, and I've been on many of them, always has a group of people there to cause trouble.
I think there are plans. I've been to a few Palestinian rallies. I have never seen someone say death to all Jews. That's a horrible thing to say. I've never seen that. I would never believe in that. I would never be supported. That's horrible. And again, when someone is saying that in a pro-Palestine movement, the first thought that comes into my head, they're a plant. They're trying to sabotage the movement. Also, what does Piers Morgan mean by Hamas regalia? Is that the scarf he's talking about? Is that the flag? Both of those are Palestinian, not Hamas. You could go to the West Bank, everyone wears the same thing. There's no Hamas there. So come on.
They're normally dealt with by the police. Don't be asking Jeremy or the people who organised a perfectly legitimate
Why shouldn't
protest.
I ask someone who helped organise it?
No, he didn't help organise it.
Well, you just said he
was a
didn't.
speaker.
Speaker.
He was the speaker.
All right, well, let me ask you this. So he's answered emphatically, should have been arrested.
Well,
Do you agree?
If they're breaking the law and showing illegal signs, then obviously the police have to act.
So anybody
Wait,
who...
can I just be
let me just ask you a simple question.
You seem to be
Hang on,
over-concerned with...
With anti-Semitism?
No, I did not. Don't put words in my mouth. I didn't say that. What I was about to say was, you seem to be minimising the fact that 800,000 people, one of the very biggest demonstrations in our history... Well,
it was 300,000.
OK. Well,
I'm minimising your description of the size of the crowd, but I'm not minimising, as I said...
The march that extends from Battersea to Marble Arch.
Yeah, but I said at the start, the majority of people there were for well-intentioned reasons, right? But
what do you want, Piers? Do you want us to say that anybody engaged in anti-Semitism, we condemn out of hand? Because we've been doing that, both of us, all our lives.
No, what was interesting, Len, was that you were emphatic that you said they should all be arrested. Do you, Jeremy, think they should all be arrested?
If people have broken the law and the police feel there's a case for it, then of course they can do that, and they did do that in some cases. But I want...
Jeremy Corbyn reminds me of like the British Bernie Sanders. Sorry, just a personal point.
I want you to understand the size of this demonstration, the peaceful nature of it. A very large number of Jewish people in the Jewish bloc also carrying placards calling for the release of hostages. This was a cry of all kinds of people, Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, Christian,
no question.
Everything.
No question.
Yeah, no question. But then when people go out and protest for the pro-Palestinian movement, everyone calls it anti-Semitism. When the crazy reality is, if you go to these, I'm telling you, go to one of these rallies, a lot of people there are Jewish. Again, I've seen it. A lot of people there are Jewish. How can you call someone Jewish anti-Semitic? It makes no sense. You're anti-Israel, which is a political ideology, Zionism. It's a country. It's not Jewish people.
Calling for an urgent ceasefire. I think the question you should be asking is, why hasn't our government listened to what ordinary people are saying?
Well, because they don't agree that there should be a ceasefire. And haven't condemned what Hamas did on October the 7th. Have you?
Of course I have, on every speech.
And do you unreservedly condemn it?
At every speech I've made, I've utterly condemned the killing of October the 7th. And it was a taking of innocent life. It was totally wrong under any circumstances. You don't bring back the tragedy of those 1,400 deaths by killing 10,000 people in Gaza. You have to have a process that leads to a ceasefire that hopefully...
How do you do you think Hamas should stay in charge of the Palestinians in Gaza?
It's not for us to decide who's in charge.
What's your opinion?
Wait a minute.
I'll tell you how to get rid of Hamas, dead easy.
Go on.
Get the Israeli government to comply with international law, withdraw from the occupied territories, dismantle illegal settlements, and build a viable Palestine, which is the United Nations position, it's the British government's position, it's the American position.
Why would that stop Hamas behaving like terrorists?
Well, because there would not be a need for Hamas.
But what justifies what they did on October the 7th?
Nothing justifies it. It was disgraceful.
They're a bunch of medieval barbarians.
It was disgraceful.
Yeah, but they're not going to listen to any reason.
It's interesting.
Their charter is a nihilistic view of Israel and getting rid of them.
It's interesting that you always have on the screens, like many other media, the war between Israel and Hamas. It's not a war between Israel and Hamas.
It is.
It's between Israel and the Palestinian people.
No, but it's not, though.
Thousands.
Oh, shut up, Piers. I hate when he says that answer so confidently as if he knows everything. No, it's clearly not. It's a war between Israel and the Palestinians, and it has been for a very long time.
Thousands. So you agree with thousands of people, women and children, being killed?
No, I don't agree with 1,500 being killed on October the 7th.
Neither do I.
But I do agree. Let me explain what I do agree with.
Can I put something
Let me explain to you.
Can I put something to you?
Let me just clarify my position. It might be helpful. Because I've had lots of pro-Palestinian guests on this show, as you may or may not be aware.
And you've been very good on...
But I've tried to be very fair, but I've been consistent.
No, he's not been fair. But again, one thing I always do give Piers Morgan credit for is that he did give a platform for a lot of pro-Palestine guests with a lot of influence. We can't deny that. He did do that. A lot of pro-Palestine activists had no other platform. No one is going to give him airtime on mainstream television. And even on like a lot of these YouTube channels, Piers Morgan was probably one of the biggest ones and the earliest ones. Now it's become more mainstream. Now you see them everywhere. But, you know, credit to Piers Morgan for that, even though he wasn't fair in the actual debate. But we'll give him that.
About my own opinion. I think after what Hamas did on October the 7th, it is utterly inconceivable that Hamas remain in power in Gaza. Inconceivable. They are a terror group like ISIS and they have to be eliminated. The question then becomes, how do you get rid of them? Now, my question for you is, do you agree Hamas has to go?
Look, I don't support Hamas. I'm not a friend of Hamas. I don't agree.
You used to call them friends.
No, hang on.
We did.
No, Karen, let's get this clear.
We did say that you were friendly with us.
Can you hang on a second? Let me just...
Is that not true?
Can I say something very clearly?
Yes.
Which I've said many times, and I said it on Andrew Marr 2 weeks ago. 10 years ago, I was in a private meeting in the House of Commons with a number of people who were representative of different Palestinian groups. It was an attempt to understand their views and to bring people together. For a short time, a person who was related to Hamas left the room. And I said, in a collegiate, a friendly and appropriate way, as you would at any meeting, where's our friend from Hamas gone?
Right.
That's all I said. And that...
So you called Hamas friends?
Oh, come on, Piers Morgan. That is such a low blow. He did not call them friends. He said it in like a professional way. Stop it. Stop it. Everyone knew exactly what he meant. Piers Morgan, you're just trying to make, what's a mountain out of a molehill or something? Come on, shut up, man.
No, oh, come on.
Oh, come on.
Piers.
You just admitted
How many times have you sat in a meeting and called somebody...
You just admitted it. Gotcha. Shut up. Okay. Well, this is why he was a joke. But I will say, I think Piers Morgan got a little bit better in his interview style. He was pretty annoying so far.
I wouldn't say my friends from the IRA. I wouldn't say my friend from ISIS. I wouldn't say my friend from Al Qaeda.
Look,
you said my friend from Hamas. No, you might have changed, Jeremy. You might have changed your mind.
No, obsessed with tittle-tattle of politics. Of something that happens 10 years ago. Why don't you instead concentrate on this?
You think people supporting Hamas is tittle-tattle?
Let me finish. Give me a chance.
Really?
Yeah, give me a chance. Let me finish. How do you think people in Palestine feel under occupation? How do you think it's like, what it's like growing
how they feel.
Growing up with a soldier outside your house? How do you feel?
That is one of the most disrespectful, dismissive things to say ever. No, Piers Morgan, you have no idea how it feels. You live in England or whatever. You're in a studio. You live with a lot of privilege. You know this. You have a home in America, in LA. Like, stop. That's very disrespectful to say that you know how they live. That's horrible. That's a horrible thing to say. You have no idea, not 1%. You don't know what it's like to, see your children dying. You don't know what it's like to see your spouse dying. Like that was a very mean thing to say, and I can't believe he got away with saying that on TV.
How would you feel?
Well, can I answer?
If your land was being taken,
can I answer?
Put in. How would you feel if your children were being bombed in a hospital?
Can I answer? The way that Israel is able, even today, to turn the tap on of water and energy and fuel into Gaza is wrong. Palestinians should have the same human rights as people in Israel.
Exactly.
Agreed.
I'm unequivocal about that. But I'm also unequivocal in my head that Hamas has to go. And so the question for you, Len, and for you, Jeremy, but the question is, if Israel doesn't do it like they're doing it, how do they get rid of Hamas?
I've just give you the answer.
A terror group.
No, Piers. I give you the answer before. I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
Do you condemn the Israeli government for the occupied settlements that are growing and have been growing for decades and are against international law? Do you condemn that?
Yes.
Oh, wow. I did not see that coming. I feel like now he's a lot more hesitant on these type of condemning questions. Good job. Good for him.
Fine. Then the best way to get rid of any extremism that exists in nations and groups is to comply with international law and make certain that Palestine is given a viable. And I'll finish with this question.
Go on.
If we all believe in a two-state solution, why doesn't our government recognise the state of Palestine? Why did they only recognise the state of Israel?
I think you can only have
It's
a two-state.
hypocrisy at its
you
highest
could only
level.
have a two-state solution, but in this particular part of this very long conflict, you have a situation where Hamas now represents an existential threat to Israel, and they've repeated it last week. Their spokesman.
So now Piers Morgan, you notice he calls it a very long conflict, and just a few minutes ago he said, what's the excuse for October 7th? They pick and choose when the war started on what benefits them.
From Hamas repeatedly said when he was challenged, we want to do this again and again and again and again. Well, let me ask Jeremy a question.
Come on,
Look,
can we?
I want to come back to this thing about what do you do with Hamas? Do you keep them in power?
Israel is claiming it is.
Not from him.
Yeah, he agrees with the Israeli government.
No, you wouldn't
withdrawing
answer. I
from
said, would you keep Hamas in power? You wouldn't answer.
They wouldn't be in power.
Can you not speak for him? It's not a puppet show. It's not a puppet show, Len.
It's not a puppet show.
He's allowed to answer for himself.
Of course he is.
Well, let him answer.
The reality is...
Let him answer, Len.
The reality
Don't
is...
talk for Jeremy Corbyn.
I still think Piers Morgan's being a bit rude, man. Like, this guy's an MP, a party leader. Like, he's being kind of rude and aggressive for no reason, really.
What you want to do is bully people.
Who am I bullying?
You're bullying constantly.
There's two of you.
Okay.
Piers.
One's run a party in the country. One's run a major union. Are you really feeling bullied, Len
I'm
McCluskey?
not.
Do me a favour.
I'm not.
Do me a bloody favour.
Why is he getting so triggered, man? Like, come on. Yeah, he definitely got better at interviewing. He's a little cuckoo in here.
Do me a bloody favour.
I'm not.
Let me come back to Jeremy Corbyn, if I may, without...
What does that phrase mean in English? Do me a bloody favor. What does that mean?
Without you speaking for him.
Can I put it this way?
Would you get rid of Hamas?
Can I say
You
something?
can answer my question.
No, can I say something?
Would you get rid of Hamas?
Listen,
Last reminder, if you enjoy videos like these where I create a condensed version, make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel. It really does mean a lot to me. And if you really want to help support this channel because of all of the demonetization I get, the revenue issues with all of these videos, and you want to support this channel so I can continue posting, make sure you become a member. It's only $2.99 a month. The link will be in the description below. Now let's finish this video.
Yes or no?
Thank you. Can I say something? Thank you. Israel claiming it is conducting legitimate self-defense. Where is legitimate self-defense pre-ordering the bombing of a hospital, knowing there are children in it? Where is legitimate self-defense?
You've heard their argument about that.
School?
They believe that Hamas, and this has been corroborated, by the way, by everyone from Bill
people
Clinton.
have died.